Hey guys, it's Emma here and I have my recent reads favourite read for January. A bit later than I normally do this, but as always I've got my Goodreads app here, so let's just get into it. So the first book I read was from my sci-fi fantasy box of stories. I'm still catching up, I think I'm 1 or 2 boxes behind, but I'm getting there. So it was The Stone Knife, and then I read some of my partner's comics. So I read Norman, I read Good Boy Volume 1, and I read Better Place. And then I read Norman Teacher's Pet, which is basically like the second Norman book, but they're not really numbered, so anyway. And then I read more from my sci-fi fantasy box of stories. I read Ruin's Wake. And then another of my partner's comics, Amber Blake, The Complete Collection. And then I got into my Kindle Unlimited books to, make the money worth it. So I read Base Notes, and I also read Something's Alive on the Titanic. Then from my Abominable Book Club subscription, I read Things Have Gotten Worse Since We Last Spoke. And also from the same box, I think I read Full Immersion. Then from my box of stories, and I can't remember if it was the sci-fi one or the horror one, it was one of the October boxes I got from box of stories, it's The Craftsman. And then from, I think that was also one of my box of stories boxes, The Temple House Vanishing. And then I can't remember, I think this one was maybe a box of stories one as well, Earthlings. And then the last one I read, also from Box of Stories, I think, was Platform 7. So those are all the things I read in January. I'm doing quite well with my Goodreads reading challenge so far. I think I've read like 20 or 21 books, and I've set it to like 200 again, so fingers crossed, we'll see how we go. I was struggling a bit by the end of last year, but I managed to take my challenge. So there was a few good things I read this month. Not many that blew me away, but there were quite a few good reads, which is awesome. I love it when I'm reading good stuff, obviously. But there were 2 that were kind of like tying for the top spot, and I read them like back to back, which was interesting. But I'll just give a shout out to the one that doesn't quite get to the top spot, and that's The Craftsman by Sharon J. Bolton. It's like a crime mystery, and it jumps back and forth between 2 time periods, like now and the past when the original crime happened, and it's following like a police officer who was like quite new back then, and then now she's a fully fledged decorated officer, and there's things coming back that maybe when they solved that case they didn't actually solve that case, but yeah, I don't want to go into any more than that. There is at least another one after that which I am going to read because I did really like this one, but it just didn't quite make the top. So the one that is my favourite read for January, and it was a surprise as well, I wasn't expecting to like it so much, is Full Immersion by Gemma Amor. I think that's how you pronounce it. And as I say, that was my Abominable Book Club package. I wasn't expecting to love it because one of her short stories, I think it's Dear Laura, had been in one of the other boxes that I had previously, and I just wasn't a fan. So when I got this one, I was like, oh, it's that same author. Well, you never know. I don't know what it'll be like. We'll see. This is a fully fledged novel, though not a short story. And I try not to give any spoilers away, but it's kind of like sci-fi. It's more, I would say it's more sci-fi than horror, but it was in the Abominable box. But yeah, so it's very sci-fi. It's this woman who's basically having this new form of therapy, and I think it's like in the trial stages. They're not like out to like mass market yet, but it's a new form of therapy which is basically like a VR therapy, and at the very start of the book, and it's not a spoiler because it says this in the blurb as well, basically she finds her own dead body, and the book goes through her trying to figure out what's going on, what's happened with her life. She's going through all of these with like a therapist in this VR place. She's trying to like figure out what's gone wrong with her family and all of these things. It could be triggering for some people because a lot of it is to do with suicide and self-harm and things like that, and things that she thinks have happened in her family. So, you know, fair warning. But no, I really just enjoyed it. I was totally sucked in. There are some horror elements that come into it a bit later. Again, I don't want to give anything away, but no, I really loved this book. I was so surprised I loved this book so much, but yeah, definitely my favourite read, full immersion. So that is it for this one though, guys. So any comments, leave them down below, share it with your friends, give it a thumbs up, and I will catch you next time, guys. Bye!